Terrence Bud Crawford will dominate EJ in the rematch. Coming up.
Do you got game? Do you got game?
I hope you know it's not a game, boy.
Yeah.
I hope you know real pack handhelds. I hope you know it's not a game, boy. No batteries included, just some assault battery charges. Homie, man, you gotta be cautious. You gotta be nauseous the way that we shake things up. Put 8 to your ribs, make you take things up. Careless in the kitchen, the way we break things up. And since y'all coming now, man, let's take things up. I get bucks like a mason trade, plus I'm sharp like a razor blade. Excuse me on these cuts. Some of y'all cats confuse me when you tough, cause you turn around and get pussy like you got no nuts. I turn around and get pussy like I signed with the Bucks. I ball like Peyton, while all of y'all hating. More money, more problems, that's all in the making. You think I'm not here to stay? You sadly mistaken. I got game.
You got game.
Look out, y'all. It's your boy Ashy Knuckles coming back at you. This will be my last assessment of the mega fight which took place a week ago. EJ versus Terrence Bud Crawford. I'm gonna go on record and basically say that it doesn't matter how many times they fight, they can do the immediate rematch. EJ is not going to beat Bud Crawford. Looking at the fight for the last time, I have a couple of final assessments, and my thoughts have changed towards a lot of it. Well, not a lot of it, but a little bit of it. I do not think EJ is destroyed as a fighter. I do think he can come back. It's just that the boxing world was not used to seeing EJ getting hit consistently, getting hit flush consistently. We never seen him down. We definitely never seen him stopped. So we got all that in one out, and you couple that with the fact that he had the accident, it's easy to conclude that he's not the same fighter, or he should retire. I've always been a proponent that only the fighters know what's going on with their bodies. So until we see him in the ring again, we can't really make a determination whether EJ is done as a fighter or at this level as a fighter. But what we do know is that EJ is done within the welterweight division. In this fight with Bud Crawford, what did we find out about EJ? What did Bud find out? He found out how hard EJ hits and whether he can withstand it. He found out how physically strong EJ is and whether it was enough strength where he could be muscled around. EJ couldn't muscle him around. He saw the best that EJ had to offer, that it really was no flash, there's no bells and whistles to his game, and that his speed was not like the speed which Bud have gotten accustomed to in the lighter divisions. What also did he see? He looked at Errol Spence's feet. His feet, although he's not a plotter, he's not on his toes, he's not as fast as he was prior to the accident. He's substantially slower. So what exactly can EJ work on in the rematch that's going to make the fight have a different outcome? And the answer is nothing. Because even when he goes up to 54, which he will be much healthier, he will be much stronger. Is it going to increase his hand speed? No. The more you move up in weight, the less likely are you going to have the same speed that you had at the lighter weights. Okay? Is he going to increase in foot speed at 154 pounds? No. As you move up in weight, you begin to slow down a little bit more. That is disastrous if you're going up against a Bud Crawford. Now, honestly, if he moves up in weight too, he's going to be slower. But that doesn't stop the fact that doesn't take away from the fact that Bud is going to still be decisively faster than EJ. Is Errol Spence going to increase in foot speed or hand speed? The answer is no. So what would make anybody believe that the outcome was going to be any different? Is EJ going to fight in a more complex style of fighting at 154 pounds? The answer is no. What happened on the night of the 29th was a total undressing of a world-class fighter. And you sure hate to see it because EJ is one of my favorite. He's a Texas guy, as am I. And we're very biased when it comes to our fighters. We love our fighters, and I'm a rock with Team Spence to the bone, Grizzle. You heard me? But I'm a realist and I'm a purist. I've been watching this game for a long time, long enough to know that there is absolutely nothing he's going to do within a matter of months or within a matter of a year or so that's going to make Bud all of a sudden be befuddled by what EJ has to bring to the ring, no matter if he was weight drained or not. Now, do I buy into the theory that he was weight drained? Absolutely not. I've seen weight drained guys on fight night. Weight drained guys, eventually the toll of making weight sets in on them, and they're more inclined to be in full retreat to try to go the distance as opposed to pressing forward, continuing with your own game plan to try to win the fight. EJ never stopped trying. Even when he was being put on his ass over and over and over, every time he got up, he kept pressing forward because in his mind, Terrence Crawford was not as big as him. He was not as strong as him. He wasn't as physical as him. And in his mind, all he had to do was land a power shot enough where he can hurt Terrence Crawford and probably eventually get a knockout because he thought Terrence Crawford was not on his level. So the weight drain conversation that's going on right now is nothing but an excuse. And if you are an EJ fan, a Spence fan, you need to get up off it because the ring sorted out the facts. It is what it is. A lot of great fighters lose in the ring to a guy that's just better than them. It doesn't mean they're not great fighters anymore. Look at Kostya Tszyu. Kostya Tszyu got his ass beat by Cool Vince Phillips. But when you hear about the great Kostya Tszyu, you never hear about him not avenging that loss to Cool Vince Phillips. Never. You do not hear it. You know what I'm saying? And there's many other examples just like that. Many examples. When you look at the great Marco Antonio Barrera, you never hear that he didn't avenge the loss to Pacquiao. You just hear about the great Marco Antonio Barrera. And many other great fighters. Many. When you hear Marvin Hagler, you don't hear that he didn't avenge the loss. You know, you don't hear about it. Even my favorite fighter of all time, which is the Motor City Cobra, the Hitman. You don't hear about him not avenging the loss to Marvin Hagler. Or Duran, or him not avenging his losses. Most of the greats in the history of the sport are great because they encountered defeat. But it's how they came back and proceeded forward is what makes them great. So Errol can still be great. He can still come back. But if I'm anywhere in his corner or on his team, you stay far away from Bud Crawford. The guy is batting a thou right now. He's probably the most cerebral fighter that we've seen since Floyd Mayweather Jr. So, on the night of the fight, Bud is assessing EJ. EJ has decent speed, but it's not speed that Bud Crawford never seen before. He come up from the lighter divisions. So, EJ tried to press him and be more physical, but when Bud was able to just move him out the way, with just not even pushing him, just moving him with his glove, with his arm, he saw that he wasn't he wasn't a strong fighter, but he wasn't strong enough to bully him. He wasn't strong, so it wasn't a strength that was too much for him to deal with. Okay, when you listen to what's going on in the corner of Derrick James and Errol Spence, Derrick James is telling them, get your shots off, but sidestep. Quit backing straight up. That's where he's catching you. But when the bell rang, what did you see EJ do? He was not listening to DJ. So I think right now, DJ is taking so much criticism that should not be directed towards him. It should be directed towards EJ. Because EJ was not listening. And you can see Derrick James getting upset because Errol usually listens to everything Derrick James says. And he wasn't listening. He wasn't doing what he was instructed to do. Now, all through the whole promotion, you heard Team Spence telling the media that Bud wasn't on EJ's level because fundamentally there were chinks in the armor. That Bud had natural talent. All these things were true. That's why you saw Bud, well, not saying he's not on his level, but he wasn't using his fundamentals through the course of a whole fight. And as a result of Bud not putting his hands where they need to be after getting his combinations off or throwing shots, especially when he's dictating the fight, he was getting hit with flush shots, like against Gamboa. He had both his hands down. Trying to lead with an uppercut. Are you insane? Who the hell does that? Roy does that. But you don't have the speed of a Roy Jones. Roy Jones had insane speed, and he was able to get away with doing things that are not fundamental and not get hit. But as fast as he is, do not have Roy Jones speed. And as a result, Gamboa was able to get him hurt. Hank Lundy was getting off on Bud. Mean Machine was getting off on Bud. Even David Avanesian, David Avocado, David Abifida, David whatever the alligator. You know, we had a lot of fun with that. He even touched Bud. But in this promotion, Team Spence let Team Crawford know your guy does not rely on fundamentals through the course of the 12. And at this level, it's going to be detrimental to him when you're fighting a world-class fighter on the level of EJ. So what did Team Crawford do? They went to the lab and they worked on it. They worked on it, they worked on it, and they worked on it. To the point where he pitched a near virtual shutout on a world-class fighter and reduced him to the level of a sparring partner. You know, a lot of the Bud fans, and kudos to you, you know, for rocking with Bud through the whole way. No problem whatsoever. I'm a Bud fan too. This is the first time I ever picked against him. But I think the only thing that Bud detractors had against Bud is that he just wasn't fighting the best welterweights in the world. And as you know, it wasn't his fault because he don't know what takes place at the negotiating table. He don't know the history of the sport of Top Rank not making a lot of the fights that were supposed to be made in their time. They have a track record for this and no one can refute it. They can only make arguments. Bud didn't know this. So as a result, he thought it was just PBC against Bud, doing stuff totally against Bud. So yes, in one of the fights, when they were going through the welterweight division, they did not put Bud up on Fox, not on Showtime, on Fox. And Bud took slight to that. But let me remind everybody, we got to look at this thing from all angles. What was done to PBC to make them do that? Every time Top Rank had an event, you hear Timothy Bradley, you hear Andre Ward, you hear ESPN, which is the global leader in sports, talking noise about a network making up stuff that you can't prove, all conjecture. And this is what they did in return. It's not like they did this to Bud the entire time he's with Top Rank. They did this as a response. But typically, most people don't remember who's the antagonist. They always remember how it was responded to. And as a result, PBC took all this criticism. But they don't criticize people making stuff up on the initial side. Oh, those guys are scared of them. Those guys don't want to. Please tell me, Tim Bradley, Andre, how in blue hell do you know any of this? You're not privy to any of these conversations. You just listening to Bob Arum, and then you going on broadcast to tell the fans that this is gospel truth. That is legitimately what happened. And it's a shame because Bud had to be on the end of this. So when it came to a point where Bud is basically a free agent, he would re-sign with a promoter who can't even secure these fights. So naturally, Bud fans who became detractors got mad at Bud for not standing on his own 2 feet as Oscar did, as Cotto did, as Pacquiao did, as Floyd did, you know, as Marquez did, as many of these Top Rank guys who made much more money when they left Top Rank. Not saying that you must sign with PBC. I'll give you an example. Jerome Boots Ennis is a top welterweight, right? And you have seen him associated with PBC, right? Jerome Boots Ennis is not signed to PBC. That is a damn lie. Show me the press release where he signed with PBC. Jerome Boots Ennis is signed with Cameron Duncan's promotional outfit. So all this assigning fighters as PBC fighters when you don't technically know if they're signed with PBC, this is what we have in the sport of boxing. Conjecture, hearsay, and assertions. Nothing that they can prove. Here's another example. David Benavidez. He's been a local on PBC broadcast. David Benavidez is not signed with PBC. David Benavidez is signed with Samson Boxing. So the whole notion that you have to sign with PBC is just boxing forum arguments. It's not truth. It's not factual. And that's been my problem when you're dealing with these people and you're trying to talk boxing with people. You want them to be in the know, but they rather hit you with hearsay and assertions and accusations and conjectures. And here's the thing. They're so proud. They think they're actually telling you that they actually profess that they know boxing when you really don't know boxing. You don't do no homework. You don't study nothing. You get on boxing forums and you get on Twitter and you deal with trolls and all of a sudden you're just some guy. You're just some special guy. So that has been the situation with Bud, man. But anyway, moving forward. In this particular fight with Errol Spence, man, Bud showed us how cerebral he is. Team Spence told him what his deficiencies are, and they worked on it. And as a result, like I said before, he fought the most well-schooled and disciplined fight we've ever seen out of Bud Crawford. Right? So, we all know about the counterpunching. We saw it on the night of the fight. We saw it live in front of our face. But what else did Bud do? You know, he was dressed down in defense when he was backed up against the ropes. He was dressed down in defense even while pressing EJ. He would walk forward, boom, catch the jab in his glove, or hit him with his own counter jab. You know, even when EJ kept pressing forward and pumping that power jab, because his power jab usually backs guys off of him, right? He was giving off a false sense of illusions to EJ to make him think that his jab was actually being effective. Because Bud would get hit with the jab, partially caught in the glove, and he would back up 2 steps, which gave off the impression that EJ, you should do more of that. You're pressing me. You're backing me up. And when EJ would come with that jab again, what would happen? Bam! He'd get caught with a hook from nowhere. Why? Because he gave off the false sense of security that this is the way you're going to have some success against me. Throw that power jab again. And when he obliged, he got popped in the mouth. So it wasn't even just the counter punching though from Bud, man. Once Bud had a read on his timing and got a look at what his speed is like and what his power was like, that's when Bud began to press him out. And it was pretty ugly. But like I said, it's not just the counter punching. Bud would counter after EJ would get off. He would counter in between the shots when EJ got off. And he also beat Errol Spence to the punch, even with a hook versus a straight shot. This is the quickest distance between 2 points is a straight line. Bud just said that's bullshit. My hook is getting there first, not your jab. We saw that. Errol Spence would throw a left, a straight left. Bud said the quickest distance between these 2 points is not going to be your straight left. It's going to be my uppercut. Bud is rewriting scientific laws in the ring, bro. There is no way an uppercut is supposed to beat a straight shot ever in the ring, and it did. And it did, bro. So, like I said before, there is absolutely nothing that EJ can work on in camp that's going to befuddle Bud. He saw how you fought. You're not going to all of a sudden become a more complex fighter. Your hand speed is not going to increase all of a sudden. Your foot speed, you're not going to be fleet of foot all of a sudden because you're at 54. The only thing that's going to happen when you're at 54 is you're going to be bigger, you're going to be stronger, and you're probably going to feel more healthier. But it's going to do nothing as it pertains to your fight game. And every aspect of the fight that EJ brought on the night of the fight got put in a suplex. So if the rematch happens at a higher weight, the only thing that's going to take place is you're going to get your ass whooped in the next division. That's all that's going to happen. One thing that needs to take place in this particular moment while he's resting is to know when a guy is just better than you. This is a guy that's just better than you, EJ. He has your number. There is nothing you're going to work on that's going to befuddle him. We're looking at a guy right now who has mastered the sweet science on a mental aspect. His brain has caught up with his physical and his natural gifts, and we saw it on display in front of the world, bro. Okay? Now, I'm not against the rematch. I do think he can perform a little better at a higher weight, and he'll feel better. But we know how EJ fights. And the thing about it that people need to realize at this point is that Crawford has been in the ring with him for 9 rounds. He knows how EJ fights. It's one thing when you're in Team Crawford and you're watching a film and you're dissecting all the vulnerabilities of your opponent. It's another thing when you've dissected the film and you shared the ring with him. The next time it's going to be even more brutal. You can mark my words. You got to know when somebody has your number. Okay? Moving forward, man. You know, one thing we all need to understand is when guys say styles make fights, it's not cliche. It's the real deal. When somebody got your style down packed, there's virtually nothing you can do about it. It's just like when Lomachenko fought Orlando Salido. I have a video saying, wow, that was a terrible move. You want to know why? Because Salido always had a read on southpaws. There was nothing that Lomachenko was going to do that was going to befuddle him because Salido has a read on southpaws. You got to understand the guy that you're fighting and what they can do and what they see in the ring. And he just has a read like nobody else I've seen when it comes to southpaws. A guy who was not perceived as a legit challenge, or they wouldn't have fought him in Lomachenko's second fight. Okay? So, moving on. What was the biggest thing that people had against Bud is because Bud wasn't fighting the best welterweights in the world. He kept signing to a promotional entity who has a history of not making a lot of the fights we wanted to see, like Mikey versus Lomachenko, Wama Lopez versus Gamboa, Bud Crawford versus Mikey Garcia, Bud Crawford versus Manny Pacquiao. We know they didn't make these fights. And these are the fighters that were within his own stable. So why would we think all of a sudden that he's going to put him in with guys who he's unsure that Bud is going to beat these guys, where there was more risk of Bud taking a loss against guys within the division? Why would he do that? You know, he was more inclined to run to the media and say, oh, it's those guys. Those guys don't want to fight. They don't want to make the fight. And because they can't interview with Al Heyman because he don't deal with the media, it was more easier to paint the picture that that guy over there, he won't even talk to us. He must be the reason why the fights aren't happening. And therefore, the conjecture comes out. The assertions come out. And it's unfortunate when guys come to boxing, they gravitate to whoever the media members are, and whatever they say becomes the gospel to them. And that is far from the truth when you enter into the sport of boxing. So, since I'm on the promotional aspect, a lot of people are saying PBC hasn't been wanting this fight, and now that the fight is made, we see the result thereof. So PBC took a loss. And now they got to pay for it. You got to pay for not having Bud against your fighters. This is your fault. It's your fault that your guy just took a loss. Let me tell you something, bro. On the night of July the 29th, EJ, Bud, and the PBC made millions and millions of dollars. Top Rank, they didn't get one nickel off of that promotion. They saw absolutely no increase in revenue as it pertains to that fight. Top Rank does not get a W for that. These are stupid boxing forum talking points. Number 2, Bud Crawford has a lawsuit against Top Rank. He is not ever going to sign with Bob Arum again. Get that out your pea-brain ass mind. That shit's over with. It's not a win for Top Rank. Number 3, Bud is a promotional free agent. Bud is his own entity, Terrence Bud Crawford Promotions. PBC is not a promotional company. Virtually any promoter can promote on the Premier Boxing Network. Most of the time, TGB or TBG, whatever the promotional company names, whatever the promotional company is, the name of it, they usually are the ones that do the co-promoting. They do the behind the scene work, the office work, because they have the personnel, even though the fighters themselves are their own promotional entity, like Errol Spence Jr. Promotions, like Lions Only Promotions, like Terrence Bud Crawford Promotions, or any other fighter who has his own promotional license. That's how it works. The reason why PBC and Top Rank couldn't do business all the time, because Top Rank wants to be in control. It's the same thing when it came to DKP Promotions. Don King wanted to be in control. And if it was a situation where they can't be in control, they will not participate and run to the media. That's how it works. Number 4, Terrence Crawford in one fight with PBC is making 8 figures. He's making more money in one fight with the PBC, who you guys say just took a loss. He's making more money with these guys in one fight than he made in a decade with Top Rank. That is another L for Bob Arum and Top Rank. Oh, but you got to pay for this, PBC. It's your fault that this happened. Number 5. Since Terrence Crawford just made the most money he's ever made with the PBC in one fight, and all he's looking for is big opportunities, who does Bob Arum or Top Rank have that's going to provide these opportunities for Terrence Bud Crawford? They have the same amount of people that they had since Terrence Crawford was with Top Rank. Absolutely nobody. There are no opportunities with Top Rank. Who are all the top opportunities going to come from? It's going to come from PBC, the entity by which Terrence Crawford just made the most money he's ever made. So it's not about, oh, your guy just lost. It's not about them having a guy that they're trying to uplift. You know what I'm saying? It's all about making the biggest fights and making the most money. What makes anybody think that Terrence Crawford is just one and done with an entity by which he just made 8 figures? Do y'all even have a brain, or do y'all just pass the motherfucker around amongst yourselves? You're so small-minded and have such a pea brain, IQ the level of a bean, that you can't even process what's actually going on right in front of your face in the sport of boxing. Don't be surprised that Terrence Bud Crawford gets an offer that he cannot deny, just like Canelo did, and signs with the PBC. At that point, go run on Highway 59 or Highway 6 or any of these highways and jump in full speed traffic, because it just puts your whole argument to bed. I can't believe you're putting your face out there saying this. Oh, they took a loss. They won, bro. They won. They made millions of dollars. And guess what? They are invested in the entity that won and the entity that lost. So if they make a rematch, guess what? They're going to make millions of dollars again. And if Terrence Bud Crawford fights Charlo, they're going to make millions of dollars again. It's a win-win. So there is no taking no L. There's only one way to spell loser. Top Rank. So, I don't want to belabor the point. Thanks for tuning in. It is your boy, Ashy Knuckles. And I'm a holler.
All in all, you know, I get to say I told y'all, because I've been asking
Don't matter
for years.
where you come
Y'all been
from.
saying, oh, he's too small. He's gonna
It don't
get
matter
this,
your
he's
name.
gonna get broken.
No.
And each and every time
All
I
we
step
wanna
up,
know is,
I proved y'all wrong.
1, 2, do you got game? Do you got game?